Hey, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're tuning into this episode. We are a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we really appreciate you listening, watching on YouTube. We really encourage you to subscribe to whatever platform you're using. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, or if you're on Apple or however you listen to a podcast, be sure and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Also, make comments if you like it and share it if you like it. We really need people to make comments and share the episodes that you like. And then also, if you're not already a supporter, we really would encourage you to go to spiritualityadventures.com and you can pick a tier, and we have bonus content for every type of giver. This is a nonprofit, so they're tax-deductible donations, but we do provide bonus content for those who are supporters. So be a part of the team, help support Spirituality Adventures, and we're so glad you're tuning into this episode. Hey, welcome everybody to this episode of Spirituality Adventures. Glad you're tuning in. Today we have Ryan Davis, but better known as Kadesh Flow.
Okay.
And Kadesh is one of the top rapper, hip-hop musicians here in Kansas City, singer-songwriter, trombonist, the hip-hop rapper with an MBA. Thanks for joining us, Kadesh. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I like to kind of jump into your background story, get a little of the history of your growing up years, your family, kind of what your family environment was like. Where did you grow up? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So I was born in Landstuhl, Germany. My parents were in the Air Force, and we hopped around Europe as they were moving around stations, and then they were stationed in Edwards Air Force Base in California. I think it's about 70, 80 miles north of LA, I think. So we went out there. My parents divorced. My dad started playing college football at Antelope Valley College, then ended up at Fresno State. And we're the same size, basically, but he was playing linebacker, so he was short for a linebacker. And so he wasn't really ever going to start at Fresno State, so he transferred to Albany State in Albany, Georgia. And that's a D2 school, but it was like championship level D2 school. They were basically getting like all the people who flunked out or were kicked off of like USC and whatnot. So he was a backup there, but got playing time, got a criminal justice degree there. My mom and I moved to Alabama, where she grew up in the Mobile area, technically Bay Minette, technically Brumley, which is a super, super small town. My cousins and I like to call it Bucktown. I still don't know where that necessarily came from, but it's like in the woods between two cities. It's gradually being absorbed into Spanish Fort suburbs. I went to Spanish Fort School for elementary and middle, went to Daphne High School. I'm the last class ever to go to Spanish Fort Middle School and graduate from Daphne High School. Daphne had a high state championship program. So like my high school played for two state championships when I was in high school. Lost both of those, but one state immediately before and immediately, like a couple years before and a couple years after. I was out of high school, had a regionally known marching band program that I was in that, we won some competitions all over the Southeast. And then I went to the University of Alabama. I thought I was going to leave the state, and I thought I was going to go to either Georgia Tech or maybe go to Colorado. But both of those would have been partial scholarship things. Mm-hmm. And that was fine, but then Alabama really, at that point in time, they were recruiting high-level academic students, almost like athletes. Like it was crazy and awesome, and I felt really wanted there. So I went and joined this cohort of all these people who had turned down Ivy Leagues to go to the University of Alabama.
Huh. What did you major in?
I did a program. It's called New College. They keep the name for posterity, but it's one of the oldest interdisciplinary studies programs for a public university in the U.S. It's like wildly progressive, especially to be at the University of Alabama and start in the 70s. But it's basically where you build your own major under the guidance of an advisor and a team of other people you pull together. So it's basically media production, but I hit all these things because I was like, oh, I might want to do game design, or I might want to do music, or I might want to do graphic design, or I might want to do business. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I knew the whole time coming into college, I knew that I wanted to be in entertainment in some way. I used to know if I wanted to perform and be on the business side of it. And then I started running away from that. So during that point in time, one of my mentors of the time put me on to the Cannes Film Festival. I was able to get an internship there. That really was the first time I saw that like I could hang with highly talented, prolific people at a high level, because I'm out here literally like talking to people who are producing these major films who have music industry ties, and I'm playing them my music, and they're like, "You're incredible."
And this was in France?
This was at the Cannes Film Festival was in France.
How long did you do this internship there?
So that was a 3-week thing. So it was just like coming in a little before the festival started and going to a little after and then flying back. But that was just a really validating situation. It wasn't the first really validating situation I've had as an artist, but it was huge and also really life-altering, because I thought I was going to graduate and get a job either in New Orleans or go to LA and be a PA or something and knock on doors and try to do the record label thing. And I had somebody in the industry basically explain the concept of a 360 deal to me, because that was where the industry had moved, and I wasn't aware of that. And I was in an off-market town in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So that freaked me out enough to, like, at the time I didn't realize that I was making the decision I made because of this, but I ended up deciding to go to grad school instead of taking, like, I had a soft job offer for the Louisiana Film Commission, because I was just hanging out with those guys when I wasn't doing my intern work and just really kind of getting, and that was when New Orleans was really hot for producing, like, everything. So I ended up going to grad school, stayed at Alabama, got a master's in business administration. That concentration was marketing and business analytics kind of smashed together. And I thought I was going to go to New York or LA or the Valley. And I got a consulting job offer in the Valley and ended up turning it down. Didn't feel right for multiple reasons. And I made a list of companies that were either healthy or cool, culture-wise, and Cerner was on that list.
Okay.
And I didn't get to any of the other companies on the list because Cerner like jumped right on there. So Cerner is the reason I ended up.
What year was that?
That was 2013.
2013.
And that's it. Okay. Came to Kansas City, started working at Cerner.
All right. Cool. So back up a little bit. What was your family environment like? Did you have a faith tradition in your family? And also, how did music enter your world? Were your parents musical? So kind of the faith piece and the music piece, what were those like growing up in your family, and how did those kind of originate with you, or how did they influence you?
Gotcha. Faith was huge in my family, mom and dad's side. So my family initially was kind of just like not Southern Baptist, but just like the Alabama, deep South, Black Baptist church.
Yeah.
I think the church we went to was like 150 years old or something like that.
Historic Black church?
Yeah.
Involved in civil rights movement, all that kind of...
Yeah, mildly.
Kind of history.
But yeah.
Okay.
So two things happened. So my dad grew up like Black Methodist, but he never really was fully like in there, and he was kind of a wild child, especially getting into the military. And so he has a moment he tells where he was driving drunk and like blackout, and he came to as his car was like spinning out, and you know, it could have been a lot worse than it ended up. And he says he had a very tangible voice that said to him, if you stay on this path, you won't see another birthday. And so then he went and gave his life to Jesus, immediately after that, right? So that's where he got started, and his growth was he's always been in more like charismatic ministries and whatnot. So he went from there, and then my mom ended up marrying my former stepfather, and he was in a charismatic ministry. Ironically, my great uncle was the pastor of this church, still is, Abundant Life Christian Center in Birmingham, Alabama. Wow. And so I ended up, charismatic on both sides. And my dad early on had me just like in ministries doing things. Like I was laying hands on people when I was like 8.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people thought I was going to be like this
pastor
great minister person. It's really fascinating to think about now because in a lot of ways, I think what I do musically and how I write and how cathartic and healing it is to people, it's like they almost had it right.
It's healing in a different in a different manifestation, right?
Yeah. But that was the faith tradition, and I was really there. I was really serious about my Christian faith and being on fire for the Lord, so to speak. Really through, I'd say through probably my senior year of college. Even though like I've always been kind of a person who questions things. My dad is like the most faith-based skeptic you'll ever meet in your life. And I just take my skepticism further than he does.
Yeah.
Like his stops at a certain point, but I take every fears, I take everything I believe in, kind of throw it against the wall and look at it. And so I was doing that constantly.
I waited till I was in my 50s to do that. And it was really painful actually, but good. I think good in the long run. Yeah.
It's hard, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
And just see my family, dynamics are interesting. Like my mom's been divorced twice and now she's looking at everything in a different way. My dad's still in ministry. He's in Port Arthur, Texas now, which is where he grew up. And so he's in a ministry that's connected there. And so that's the faith foundation. The big thing that really fast-tracked my like looking at everything deeply is I fell in love with a agnostic Jew when I was in college.
Oh, interesting.
And she was actually considering becoming, like she was going to church with me and really thinking about it. And then she did a birthright trip. And
to Israel?
And that was the first time that she had really, that was like the first time she had really felt anything spiritual for real. And so that thankfully didn't happen because I would have hated to have been responsible for the alternative. But musically, my family has always been musical to a degree. I have one uncle, everybody calls him Uncle Brown, his Uncle Ellis. He left home at 15 and he's been performing internationally for like 50 years or something like that, 56 years.
Musically?
Yeah, and I don't know him very well because he was gone my entire upbringing. I've seen him twice.
What kind of music does he do?
Like blues, folk, soul stuff. Everybody, like a lot of people in my family sing. Just nobody really took music seriously for real. I have one cousin in my generation of my family who went to school for theater performance and then went to conservatory in Wales, and he's in New York doing really well for himself right now. We're the only two people right now.
Interesting.
And part of that I think is like my family, my generation. So like I'm in my 30s and the, I guess 1980 through now is really the first generation of my family who's been able to like be successful at whatever we felt like doing uninhibited for as far as like systemic oppression and racism and whatnot. But my family's always been like that side of my family's always had like a lot of really hard workers and people who do things that are cool. So my family kind of takes a lot of this stuff for granted. Like my family has just expected me to be well known musically for like most of my life. And it's just a thing that honestly they don't appreciate enough because they just expect it. They're like, oh yeah, Ryan's gonna go to, he's gonna go to, I got a full ride to a D1 school. And they were like, oh yeah, of course. And I'm like, I got a full ride. Like, what are you talking about? So that's the musical foundation's there to that degree. My family spits out like college football level talent though. And a lot of the men in my family are like stocky like me, and there's like a foot range of height. Like there are people who are like 5'5" and there are people who are 6'5", and I'm on the shorter end of that. Yeah. But, I have cousins who have played in the NFL. A bunch of cousins did college football. I kind of rebelled on that a little bit and decided to do music.
Yeah. Did you start in church musically?
No, I started in band. My first rap performance was a church rap performance.
I was wondering. Yeah.
But that was in Albany, Georgia. That was Raymond Word International Ministries. My dad was a part of that. and they had a youth talent show when I was 13. But I started playing in band. I did a recorder class at 10 years old, and then I started playing trombone because I thought trombone sounded like fart noises, and I wanted to make fart noises. And then
That's great. Oh man.
And then like a couple weeks after that, we were roasting somebody on the back of the bus about their breath. And we had a song. I don't know who came up with the song, if they got it from somebody else they heard. I don't know where it came from. But Say My Name by Destiny's Child was pretty big back then. And we had a parody of it that went, close your mouth, your breath smells like onion, sour cream and Funyuns, need to close your mouth. And the idea was, all the cool like R&B and pop singing songs have rap verses on the remix now. Somebody needs to do a rap, and nobody wanted to do that. And I was like, I'll write a little rap verse for it, and it was terrible, but that's how I started rapping. So I started playing trombone and started rapping for very childish reasons. These things that I do professionally now, but that's the music background.
Yeah, that's cool. So how did you, like in college and in your master's, you're not diving in, you're not doing music in your degrees, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you did media, and then an MBA. But how did you keep were you training with somebody? You're so talented. How did you develop your skill? And was it just always, were you in the band at Alabama?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Not the whole time. I was in jazz ensemble the entire time.
Okay.
But I left marching band after 2 seasons. So when I was in high school playing, I was always really good. My senior year, I got the highest chair you could get in the state of Alabama. Like it was first chair in the Red Band for All-State. Red Band was a top band. Yeah. So like my senior year, you could have argued that I was like the best trombone player in the state of Alabama at the high school level.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody at my high school had gotten that. Not that I know of. But I wanted to be J.J. Johnson. Rap was just a thing that I did. It was just like, I can rap, it's cool. But I didn't see any place for myself in the industry with what was happening in the early 2000s hip-hop wise. I'm like, there's no room for nerds. Mm-hmm. And then really Kanye kind of changed that for me, but really, really Lupe Fiasco changed that perception for me, because he's just a gigantic nerd, and he's heady, and he's really cerebral, and I also, when I was with my mom and my former stepfather, I wasn't really allowed to listen to secular music. Okay. So I listened to music that my dad played, because the other part of the music background is my dad on our road trips was always playing a wide array of music all the time, multi-genres, talking to me about just like the history that he knew. And he was a trumpet player who gave it up for football. So I did basically the opposite of him. My dad played football through military in college, like I said earlier. So he gave up trumpet for football. I gave up football for trombone. Okay. So I was passionate about being a really good trombone player, but I knew I wanted to get a college football experience. So I didn't want to go to a conservatory level thing for college, because I didn't even audition for any of the stuff. I knew that I wanted to go to a spot with like cool athletics, and so I could enjoy that experience and whatnot, because my high school football program was amazing, and I didn't want to just lose that immediately. I felt like I could still get a good experience. But then when I was looking at, All-State concert band stuff was at Auburn University at the time, and All-State Jazz was at the University of Alabama at the time. And I would talk to the college students I'd encounter, and it was weird to me that they weren't taking like business courses at all, because I even not knowing much of anything about anything, I still thought it was weird that you would like not learn how to manage your books or something, like if you're trying to be a professional musician. It just didn't make sense to me. So it bothered me that like this wasn't being taught. So I was like, I don't want to major in music and not get like a wide range of experiences. I'm good enough to just play. And then I was pretty cocky. I wasn't cocky enough to be unbearable, but I knew I was good. I knew I was really good. And I was like, I'm better than most of these people here already. Like coming in, I can just like, I'll be able to do the ensembles I want to do. I was right about that. And so I did a year of lessons with Dan Drill, who I still keep up with at the University of Alabama. He was their trombone professor from 1967 to 2009.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah,
Career.
yeah. And he a lot of great trombone players came out from under him. He's clearly retired now, but I have the utmost respect for him. And then John Whitaker came in after him. John Whitaker is a good friend of Joe Alessi, who for a while people were saying was the best classical trombone player on the planet. He was still is, I think, the principal trombone player for the New York Philharmonic. So I took a year of lessons from Dr. Whitaker, and it was really amazing that he actually gave me time, because I wasn't a major and didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. But I was doing all the stuff. I was like second chair in the jazz ensemble all 4 years. And the first chair player was another freshman. And we kind of came in to get in the same class and kind of cleaned house as freshmen. It was not the most popular thing when we came in, but we were like literally wire to wire all 4 years, first and second chair in the jazz ensemble, in the top jazz ensemble. So I stayed with it from that. And then I gradually started falling in love with hip hop. My junior year, I started a band, Kadesh and the Perfect Strangers. And I had put out like little albums before, but that was really, we had a show, we packed it out, and I was just shocked at what it felt like to have people respond to my music in that way. And that kind of changed everything for me. It's a very long answer. But.
No, it's all right. And then tell me about your faith. Did you go through some kind of a, lack of a better word, deconstruction of your faith? Or so, because you said every now and then you just throw everything on the wall, question everything, and then kind of reintegrate stuff. Did you go through some kind of a crisis of faith, or just like, hey, I don't know if I believe this stuff anymore, and I think I believe that, was there a I don't know, you said you were very committed to your Christian life in high school. Did anything, did that change for you at some point, and how and why?
Really in grad school. So I became gradually more and more progressive throughout college, just experiencing people. And I've always been one to like hear people, even if my opinions were like really against them. Even when I was fully like fundamentalist, I didn't get why we cared about gay marriage. I was like, okay, so they're gay. That's a sin. What does that have to do with us? Why are we trying to institutionally block it from happening when all this other stuff happens? So I always had like questions about stuff that didn't make sense to me, like where I hadn't identified at that point that there were a lot of power structures around faith that drove a lot of what was happening. I just didn't get like, okay, so if I believe the Bible, then why can't we just believe the Bible over here and let these people live over here and just love on them, because that's what we're supposed to do, right? I didn't understand that as like a teenager. So, like I said, fell in love with I wouldn't say she was fully like agnostic yet, but she was like, she didn't know where she was, Jewish girl. And we were together on and off from like the middle of my junior year through grad school, and then we were kind of on and off, at least like in relationship purgatory for like another 2 years after that. So like she moved with me to Kansas City. Okay. Went to Israel for a year, came back, and we actually like really like cut ties in like 2015. So like 2009 to 2015. Mm-hmm. And just her journey, there are a lot of things that like I did that were really unfair to her because of my faith and the fact that I couldn't stay away from her, but that she didn't share my faith. And I kind of bore down on her in some ways that were really like emotionally harmful and unfair. And just like, I think I didn't really start the deconstruction journey until I really started to sit with that. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, my grad school cohort, so she's Jewish. There was a Ukrainian Jew, like an atheist Ukrainian Jew, a Bengali Muslim, her sister, and then like I have a buddy from grad school who's Nigerian. He was kind of like in an interesting spot. And then a couple like, conservative Christian guys. And we all were like running together as a group. We were kind of like the cool outsiders in a way. So we weren't like in the in crowd. So like we were doing Shabbat dinners together. We were doing Ramadan together.
Wow.
We were doing like
it's like an interfaith experience with friends.
Yeah. So that was 2 years. That was all both years of grad school. And just those conversations and like, you know, we really dealt with a few things conversationally that really made me think about some stuff that I carried with me moving to Kansas City and just being around people. So that process was gradual. It never was a crisis situation. I think the last straw for me to really just like kind of put some things on the back burner, because I imagine we'll talk about this later, but where I am right now is like I still maintain a prayer life. There's a lot of stuff I don't prioritize doing, like church right now or anything like that. My dad is definitely the most prominent spiritual voice in my life, and he's always been very like open and non-judgmental, and just like he tries to, you know, guide me and encourage me to not lose everything, but he's also understanding, you know, the journey that I'm on, a journey. I put a lot of stuff on the back burner because I'd rather build the things I'm trying to build creatively and business-wise, and like be the best person I can in that process, and then figure out where exactly I am, you know, when there's more time for it. But my last partner, who also went to Alabama, and we reconnected in 2016 while I was on tour. She moved here, we were together, and both of us were like really perfect on paper together and really perfect together in person. And a few things happened. Like she was going to church with me when she got here. I was going to what used to be the Cause and then became Hillsong KC, and now it's Kingdom City KC. A lot of things happened with that, obviously. We were in honeymoon phase. Her dad died suddenly. That wrecked her from a faith perspective immediately, but then we kind of both realized that we were moving away from what we were taught was the thing. Like if we did the thing that we were supposed to do, that structurally was there, like we would have got married immediately and probably would have kids by now. And I think it would be fine, but we'd probably be fighting through some pretty serious things. But we were really like deconstructing the systems around ourselves that we grew up in. I've always been a history person, but I was finally like admitting to myself that so much that I was seeing systemically was kind of a lie. And that it wasn't necessarily that people intentionally tried to deceive me. The people who raised me did the best that they could. And I think they did a really good job in a lot of ways and set me up to keep investigating things. And that's kind of where it kind of ended up, you know. I think listening to people and really trying to hear people where they are was like the easiest deconstruction catalyst there is, because people have so many different experiences, and then you have people who are being shut out because their experience is different than yours, and that doesn't really sit right with me, you know.
Right. If God is love, then why is it that so many, quote, fundamental Christians seem to have the least of it? Sometimes.
My dad still tells me.
I wouldn't say that about all of them, but beautiful people in all traditions, right? But there can be a lot of judgment and stuff in some of the more conservative strains of Christianity, I think. It can get really, anyway.
So much. My dad still, to this day, he says, well, the church is a hospital, son. The church is like a hospital.
That's what I like,
And it's interesting to me because he's so committed, and he sees so much, you know. So you know, I appreciate that we can have very real conversations where like I've watched his journey in ministry, and he's gotten burned so much. And one time I told him, I was like, Dad, you know, I've seen you get burned a lot, and you want me to learn from your mistakes, so I am. You know, and interesting, you know, but
I like to say now, I'm less certain and more open now. And I also like to say questions, doubts, and disbelief are a valuable part of the spiritual journey, because it's how we grow, it's how we learn, it's how, so, yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's jump into your musical. So you're in Kansas City, working at Cerner. About the same time you moved to Kansas City, you released your first full album. Is that right? 2013?
14.
14?
Mm-hmm.
How many full albums have you released now?
Really, you could say 2 or you could say 5.
Okay.
I guess you could say 3 or you could say 5. So you could say 3 or you could say 6. So when I was in college and I was putting out the weekly anime raps, I'd put those together, and they were more like mixtapes. It wasn't like a cohesive body of work thing. But I released this album on Bandcamp called Bankai Flow. It's inspired by this anime called Bleach. And that was really what started everything. And then I had a series called Nerd Crunk Volume 1, 2, and 3. And it was, Star Wars and Skyrim and Bleach and Dragon Ball Z and One Piece and all these nerdy, anime and video game franchises I did raps about or inspired by. So those, you could consider those albums or you could not. Gateways was the album where I released it in 2014, and that was when I decided to take myself seriously as an artist for real, and do the work. Because in grad school, I had a moment where basically how I started was I released, I think it was November 2011, I did a Skyrim rap. It was the same month the Skyrim video game came out. And my classmates, I was like, get ready to walk into like a study thing with people, and one of them texted me, he was like, "You're on the front page of Reddit right now." And I was like, "What?" And so that like kind of cracked, and then I didn't have, go ahead.
Well, no, did you sign with Strange or? No. You did, was that just a self-release?
I just played on some stuff. I played trombone on some Strange music projects.
But when the albums that you started releasing, those were all
just me,
like DIY stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everything's been DIY.
Okay. It's great. I love your music. I've been listening to it for a few weeks now, getting ready. I love it. It's good.
The weekly release thing happened because I had to have an internship during the summer of my MBA time. I was interning with an online startup. The startup failed. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get anything else. So I basically went to the grad school office and asked if I could do a marketing project with my music and report on it. So I was releasing weekly stuff and looking at the trends. And I thought, and it was also like me realizing, hey, I was running away from music at the time. I was running away from myself musically, and for a number of reasons. And I had this moment where I was like, I need to actually try and see what happens. So in doing that, I had some stuff jump off. It wasn't like right now it wouldn't be considered going viral. I have friends who are doing the best numbers I ever had bi-weekly right now. But at that point in time, when you have something that's in the hundreds of thousands, and it's like, Kotaku is a huge pop culture media outlet, was writing about your stuff, and like IGN did a thing where I was in it, and like I was getting a lot of attention because what I was doing wasn't common at the time. That led to the music making. But then I get to Kansas City, I'm at Cerner, and I know that I need to actually try. I need to try to book national shows, see if I could get booked with stuff. So I released Gateways as like a product that I could give people who don't know anything about me. And that was what helped me get booked at my first anime convention, which was Anime Los Angeles in 2015. And so that's the first album. Then the second one would be Otaku Moods, which is 2019. I featured Jessica Page on that album. And then Room Service 2, which I released in 2021. It's my last solo release. But you could also say Ghouls and Ghosts 4, which is a Halloween album that Mega Ran is like the musical big bro. Richie Branson is also a musical big bro. They added me to their series of Halloween albums because they had featured me on the previous 2. But they were like, why don't you just be on the whole thing? And that album was incredible. I'm still shocked at how well it went and how well it turned out. So you could say, I guess for real 4, but you could also say 6.
Okay. Well, so here, like I'm 62, and like I can't remember when Pac-Man came out, but I grew up playing pinball, right? Not video games, right? Yeah. And then by the time video games hit, I mean, I was off doing I never really got in big time in the video. You know, I played some, but never got into it, you know. And then anime, I'm not, you know. Now I have got, you know, I've been a long time hip hop fan, but so help people like myself. How, if I really wanted to understand the anime culture, because I went to your YouTube channel and watched, you know, some of your video stuff there. That's all anime hip hop.
Yeah.
And that's a genre, right? Mm-hmm. And like that's such a new thing for me because I don't watch anime, but I love hip hop. And so I'm going down through your YouTube channel looking at all this stuff. So tell me about this genre of anime hip hop. How long's it been going on? You're in that space. Give us a little feel for people who are outsiders and don't really know that world. Help us to dive into that world a little bit.
Okay, so foundationally, a lot of rappers are nerds. You think about Wu-Tang with the 36 Chambers thing. That was like a concept album that was inspired by a classic kung fu movie. Yeah. MF Doom, literally comic inspired, you know.
What was the 2-volume set that was so big? Voice Box and what was that?
I should be able to answer that question.
But anyway, I always wondered if that was a big concept thing that where that flowed from as well. Anyway.
There's so much there. So it's been there. Rappers have been nerds, right? To be a lyrically good hip hop artist, you kind of have to be a nerd, honestly. You just may not be a nerd about nerdy things, but like you can't have that depth of references and storytelling without nerding out about certain things.
Yeah, it's 1,000 images that get thrown at you, and you know, it's just fascinating. You know?
Yeah. But nerdcore is a term. The term was coined by a guy who goes by MC Front a lot. His name's Damien Hess in 2000, and it's wild because in college I looked up to these people and now like they're like really good friends and it's so crazy. But he coined the term. There was a guy named Bryce who literally his rap moniker is YT Cracker, and he's a hacker. And he was doing he's doing chiptune and 6, 8, and 16-bit sound rap stuff. My like mentor, big brother rap guy, Mega Ran, is really the guy I'm most inspired by in that world. And he had an album he had like a 2009 or 2008, maybe 2007 thing called Forever Famicom, which was like Famicom's early video games where he covers a lot of stuff. And then he dropped Black Materia in 2011, which was a Final Fantasy VII inspired rap album. I was listening to the Carter 4, Lil Wayne's album, and I saw this Final Fantasy graphic near Lil Wayne on the iTunes charts, and I was like, what is this? And listened to it. And that was really my last straw because I'd written these secret anime and video game bars. The anime rap side of things, and this is like a super condensed, thing, but the anime rap side of things kind of spawned from the whole nerdcore thing. And really, I'd say when I started doing it in 2012, there's a guy I mentioned earlier, Richie Branson, who like until recently was working on Fortnite. So he's a game developer now, but he still raps. But we met on the internet. I did the Skyrim thing, and I did a Star Wars The Old Republic rap, and he did a Star Wars The Old Republic rap, but he's an immensely better producer than me, and he had gotten screwed over on a major label situation and was just doing his own thing now. And so he did a thing called Otaku Tuesdays, which every Tuesday he dropped an anime rap. And I was thinking about doing that, but I couldn't do it because I was taking 15 hours of 500 levels. So I didn't get to it till that summer. But we were connecting on the internet and collaborating a little bit that whole time. So we had a personal relationship, but at the same time, there's a guy who went by Shofu. There's a guy who went by Eddie Rath. There's a guy who goes by 6 Seconds. And these guys were all like dropping anime-inspired stuff and going pretty viral with it. And there's some people I'm not thinking about, but I'd say there were probably like 6 to 10 people doing that in like 2012.
Okay.
And that's where it really...
Nationwide.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's really where it started. So I don't know all those guys personally, but we've interacted. There's like a guy who goes by Numb Like Joshua also.
So like on your YouTube, like when the anime part, is that, do you have to buy the license to show that, and then it's all your music?
No,
How,
So
yeah.
initially, there wasn't. You were risking getting flagged, but then I think a lot of these companies realized it was just free marketing, and YouTube.
You would just steal a clip basically and put your music.
Yeah, you would just like edit a clip together, edit scenes together.
Okay. I don't steal, but
I mean,
whatever. But you weren't asking for permission, probably,
No,
right? You just posting it, and then the copyright people come chasing after you or stuff like that.
So every so often, for the most part, they didn't, and YouTube hadn't figured out a way to like ad share when you use somebody else's content yet. Now they can. So the reason I didn't stay with that is because like I had to get a job and I was into live performing. So I moved. I was corporate, and I'm like, I'm either going to be performing live or releasing weekly stuff. I can't do both at the same time and have a corporate job. So I let it go for a little bit. In the midst of that, YouTube figured out, now I guess you could do that and ad share revenue. Everybody shares stuff. The companies who own the content can flag it if they want, and they can get all the ad share revenue, or they could they're still getting some of it. And then occasionally you'll have a certain franchise that is like, no, you can't use this at all, but they'll just flag it. They'll just be like, no, you can't use it.
And all of a sudden it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
we have that happen every now.
So you take it down. So it's like it's easy to manage now, but that wasn't. They hadn't figured that out in like 2012 and 2013. Now though, so while I'm at Cerner, there's people like.
Are you still at Cerner?
No.
Yeah, you're
full. This is my thing.
Musician, right?
Whole different world, whole different life. Right. But there are people like Rustage really is kind of like the biggest guy on the planet for this thing. He's like this 25-year-old British guy, and he's just a machine cracking out stuff, and he's been doing it for a while. There's people like Cam Steady, Daddy Fat Snaps, Game Boy Jones. I mentioned Dizzy 8 earlier. That like really, I'd say maybe like 2015, 2016. These guys started doing a lot of stuff consistently, and it's turned into like this massive, like they're doing crazy stuff.
So fascinating.
There's the whole community. There's whole community. There's so many amazing creators making incredible music consistently. There's this guy in Fable who's like, if like Linkin Park and Drake had a musical baby, but his content's expired by like anime. It's crazy. Like it's really inspiring. So that's like the long and short, like really condensed thing. For that,
I was a Linkin Park fan. I went and saw them live in Kansas City one time.
I'm jealous of that.
Probably about when you were here. Do you remember when U2 did their Vertical tour? They were at Kemper, and right next to them was Linkin Park.
Wow.
And I love U2, but I went to Linkin Park, and I was one of the best concerts I'd been to.
I bet it was.
Anyway, tell me about Nerdy People of Color Collective.
Yeah, so that's the other side.
How does that relate to the nerdcore stuff? Or does it?
It does. It absolutely does. So Mega Ran, who, at this point is a really popular independent hip hop artist across the board, very respected across like hip hop in general. At that point in time, so this is 2013, he and a WWE star who goes by Xavier Woods, they were at a thing that used to happen in Orlando called Nerdapalooza, and Ran had already identified people he was seeing on the internet who were doing things, who were doing other like anime, video game, sci-fi inspired rap things genuinely. So there was, like these people were like family to me now, like IQ, Creative Mind Frame out of Dallas. IQ also is in Dallas. Shubzilla out of Seattle. Samus, who literally took her name from the main character of Metroid. She's a postdoc fellow at Brown University right now. And she's one of the best rappers I've ever heard in my life. So there are all these people, Sky Blue out of North Carolina, a bunch of people. And everybody was able to go to this thing and meet up in person, except me, because I just started at Cerner and didn't have any vacation time yet. So I didn't go. But the Nerdy People of Color Collective was started there. He basically was like, hey, let's all be in a thing. Let's do some stuff together. And it's really about representation because a lot of nerdy, quote unquote nerdy and geek spaces are traditionally like straight white, nerds, and it excludes everybody else. And NPC also in video game terminology is an acronym for non-player character. So it's kind of a double entendre saying, okay, we're the nerdy people of color. We're also not going to allow ourselves to be non-player characters in these spaces anymore. So it's representation by action. So we're going to be at these conventions, we're going to be at these festivals, we're going to be in the conversation more in general. So that's really how it started and what it is. And we just started really mobbing festivals. And then what was cool was those of us at that point in time, it was really just like Rand, Richie, and Samus, and obviously Xavier Woods is hugely famous.
And he's a pro wrestler?
Yeah.
Dude.
He's also a trombone player.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Bobby Lashley?
Yeah.
I know him.
You know Bobby Lashley?
It's crazy. One of my close friends and Bobby wrestled in college together. And then when I kind of blew apart and came out of rehab and had lost my job and everything, I actually raised money for a medical marijuana company here in Kansas City. And so my friend put me in touch with Bobby as a potential investor,
Wow.
Yeah. And so we've had a lot of conversations, and I keep forgetting, I want to try to get him on my podcast, but I have his cell number, and we've dialogued a lot.
Very cool.
Yeah, through the last 4 years maybe.
But yeah. He was here with the WWE for Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, and like my friend, he stayed at my friend's house, and his kids and them were playing videos together after the thing.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I was at that show because Xavier Woods got me a floor seats for it.
Sweet, sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we just kind of built because a lot of us weren't as well known. And then we started booking, just get in the door at conventions. But then it turned into 2016 MagFest, stands for Music and Gaming Festival. It's in Washington, D.C. Rand was like, hey, they gave me 3 main stage show slots for some reason. At this point in time, Mega Ran was like the only rapper who people viewed as like safe, who was a person of color, who was black or even like just non-white. And I have been told from a lot of bigger places, they're like, oh, you might be inciting gang violence at our convention. It was like completely absurd. But he was like, hey, if you can get here, I got badges in the room for you. We'll do this showcase and show you off. I think like 4,500 people came to that show. I did one song of mine and then played trombone on 2 other songs with people. From that one performance, 3 of the biggest anime conventions in the U.S. booked me on the spot. Basically, there were people who worked with them that were there. And so then that summer, 2016, I played Anime Expo with Mega Ran, Shubzilla IQ, and Bill Beats. And then I did Otakon with Samus IQ and Creative Mind Frame. And those are both, Otakon's in Baltimore, Anime Expo's massive and in LA. And those 2 things were really kind of bookend. So 2016 ended up being crazy. At the same time, that year I also did my first official South by Southwest showcase because I was playing trombone with some vets, and I had gotten poached by Sandy Kemper from Cerner, and I had started at C2FO, which is a fintech company. That company didn't have a vacation policy to avoid attrition costs, so if you were working hard and you needed to go, you just went. So then I started booking tours while working there, and so the NPC Collective was just doing all this stuff all over the country. And that's really how that 2016 year was like kind of the catalyst year for me, music career-wise, and everything got crazy. And then in 2017, I ended up needing to quit my job because I was at a bandwidth point. So that's like a general synopsis of the Nerdy People of Color. We're still doing stuff but those are all, everybody mentions like family. We have like multiple group chats. We're talking like every day. And we're planning stuff, collaborating all the time. It's really cool.
That's amazing. So, what's going on like currently right now? What do you see on the horizon as far as the next year or 2 in your career?
I think flipping back to being content forward as compared to being performance forward. I'm still going to perform a lot, but that's the biggest shift is like getting back to releasing a lot of music and really trying to be comprehensive about how I put it out, how I push it across social platforms, across mediums and whatnot. So I jumped back into releasing music weekly in 2020, like in late 2020, and I did that for like a year. And the problem with that was, this is a good problem to have, I also kind of had the hot hand in Kansas City, and so I was performing all the time. And I never thought I'd be in a situation where I was getting paid decently well to do my original music all the time in like a concentrated area, and people were showing up for all of it.
Yeah,
you know?
That's fun.
It was really, it's so crazy. But now I'm like, okay, so if I'm performing all the time and I can still put 100 to 200 people in a room, depending on the situation, what happens if I'm not doing my stuff all the time? Can we create a little bit more of a scarcity model around what I'm doing? And there are other things that I'm doing now that kind of allow me to do that, where I'm doing more children's music with a guy, Dino Odell, and we're collaborating more closely. We've been working together for a while, but we have a lot planned that is daytime world in schools and libraries and museums. Oh. So like, I don't necessarily need to have nighttime shows all the time. And I just have so much I want to do and so many people I want to collaborate with that the big shift is making more music and having a more consistent content game. My content game is decently consistent, but really, really amping it up. So that's the immediate thing. I'm also now the major gifts officer at Kansas City Community Gardens, and I was writing grants for them for the last 3.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So I'm more engaged there. So just from that, I plan on being just more front-facing because I'm raising money. But now that kind of integrates, now it's like these two worlds kind of collide a little bit because I'm being more of a face for them. And I've been emceeing the gala for us since I've been working there. But that opportunity came from somebody suggesting I look at grant writing jobs because I had successfully funded a few projects I'd done. And I had never thought about it. I looked on Nonprofit Connect, job was there. It's like, oh, and one of my goals when I left C2FO was to find something that was a non-musical skill set that I could do part-time and remotely if I needed to. So those are the things. There's a lot that comes with that, but those are probably the main two things.
Yeah. Well, if for those of you who haven't listened to Kadesh Flow, just Google Kadesh Flow.
Facts, absolutely,
and boom. I mean, you'll have a thousand things to follow, but the YouTube channel is really fun. A lot of your anime work is on your YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and then great Instagram and and then you can pull up all your albums, music, all that kind of stuff. You just released a new single just a month ago or something?
Yep.
Called
Stakes.
Yep. Stakes.
Yeah. And that was kind of just like, I've done stuff that just to make sure that I have something hanging out while I prepare to be really consistent. Because like I haven't said this to anybody yet, but I have a song I'm releasing on January 1st. I'm like about finished with the mix, and I'm gonna send it to the radio people and whatnot. But I'm hitting it really hard from the front end. And I'm taking 2 weeks off from music in mid-January, and I'll have stuff queued up to just like hit click and put out while I'm resting mentally a little bit. And then late January through May, it's on. There's like some crazy shows already on deck, some crazy collaborations that I'm looking at, and I'm just gonna try to keep it consistent.
That's cool. Well, hey, I want to just encourage people to check you out and listen. Even if you are not a regular rap hip hop listener, you're gonna love Kadesh's music. Check it out. Trust me on this.
Thank you, friend.
Great music. Super good. And by the way, I'm gonna plug this because this is gonna come out actually tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is gonna be a real quick release, but we are just in the early planning phases of an event on Friday night, January 12th, at the Oasis International Church in Raytown, where Michael Brooks is pastor, and we're going to be doing an MLK event that Friday night. Calvin Arsenia is going to be working with us, putting the music together. We're going to have some, a keynote speaker, a panel discussion, be talking about some of the issues that we're facing in our nation with a focus on nonviolent resistance to oppression and loving our enemy, even as MLK so brilliantly gave us a model for. So and I just mentioned this to Kadesh today, and so Calvin and I were hoping we could have Kadesh join us. So yeah, if and then we're even we might do an after party.
Yeah, there's a Jessica Rage. It's myself and Jessica Page at the ship. Doors for that are at 9.
9. So ours is going to be the 6:30 to 8:30. And then for anybody who wants to go have an after party, you can hit over at the ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, but thank you so much for jumping on Spirituality Adventures with us. It's really a joy. And hang on because we want to get maybe a song or two on here. So is that good?
Yeah.
You willing to do that? And we'll get a recording here for one or two of your songs. So.
Cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Kadesh. Appreciate it.
Thank you, friend. It's cool to be here. Hey, I'm Kadesh Flow. It's cool to be here on the Spirituality Adventures podcast with Fred Herron. I just wrote this song that is going to be out on January 1st, and it's recorded and everything, but I still don't know it. So I'm just going to do what we can do on it. It's called Overcome. It's inspired by a character, Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen, who I relate to a lot because he is a jiu-jitsu sorcerer, but he left that life to get a corporate job for a while because he thought it was reckless, but his gifts and passions ended up calling him back to help some of the kids out and whatnot, and it's a fateful decision, we'll say that. Used to tell people who look up to me to keep it pushing. Don't give up because for greatness we must pay a price. Gotta be honest though, the way my lane and future's looking, I'm not all that certain that I've been given great advice. Privileged by my talent when I've been trying to escape this life. Was my attempt to reject my purpose simply wasted time, wondering what I accomplished, trying to run away from mine. People inspired by me, I'll carve a path so they can shine. This has always been to follow the way of life exhausted. Wondering if support would come in pain as I've been walking, fighting curses with my guilt cause I'm complicit. Just being alive in the systems we exist in, I've been burned, recognizing why I'm on this earth to risking. Life and livelihood, I heard the call and then I listened. I wish I'd never run away. I wish this world were different. I'm just trying to last until we shift it. I pray that we can overcome. Take it into overtime. Unlock my full potential. Maintain hope that I can overcome. Yeah, I'm supposed to shine. And when the going gets tough, I still hold the line to overcome. Take it into overtime. Unlock my full potential. Maintain hope that I can overcome. Yeah, I'm supposed to shine. And when the going gets tough, I still hold the line. Was going extra hard, I hope the pay adjusted. Corporate ladder led the quagmires I was stuck in. Meanwhile, people think my skills are what luck did. They don't know how much I had to grind to make it up here. Staring down obstacles calmly, I'm just doing math. Used to think it reckless for anybody to choose this path. Walking this, you never know how quickly you can leave this earth. Been looking for answers, but just ended up receiving burn scar that clouds my vision. Pushing forward, wondering if I made the right decision. Had a decent living. Have I done enough? No, that's why I'm still relentless. Resolute with past limits, still come to remembrance. Back when I thought leaving corporate meant that bill payments were getting through. But now I ditched the coat and tie. Know that I gotta hit the city doing just what I was built to do. Because complacency's too miserable, I pray that we can overcome. Take it into overtime. Unlock my full potential. Maintain hope that I can overcome. Yeah, I'm supposed to shine. And when the going gets tough, I still hold the line and overcome. Take it into overtime. Unlock my full potential, maintain hope that I can overcome. Yeah, I'm supposed to shine. And when the going gets tough, I still hold the line and overcome.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening all the way through on this episode. By the way, if you're not already a supporter, go to spiritualityadventures.com, sign up for one of our monthly supports, and you will receive our bonus content. You'll receive lots of interesting information about our guests. Many of our musicians will do special bonus songs and record a song. So I want to encourage you to do that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and share any of the episodes that you like. And be sure and make comments if you like them as well. This helps us get Spirituality Adventures out there to more listeners, more watchers. So whatever platform you're using, subscribe, like, share, make comments, and go to our website, sign up for our team, and be a part of the team support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.